Good morning, afternoon, evening to everyone. Not too sure where everyone is based, so just a big hello and welcome from your friends here at Hostfully, as well as our two VIP guests, Richie, who is the co-founder of PriceLabs, and Becca, who is the manager of solutions consultants at PriceLabs in the US. That's a mouthful, yeah? We will be starting relatively shortly. And while we're waiting, if I could just ask you, just so we can get a better understanding of who you are, what we should really focus on today's webinar, you're going to find a questions tab at the bottom right of the screen. Use that as an opportunity to ask us any questions that you have throughout the next hour. You're also going to notice some pop-up polls throughout today's webinar as well. So it'll be great if you could participate in those polls and provide some intel and knowledge for us to kind of work with and make this a little bit more curated to you and your property management system and operations. As mentioned, again, we're just waiting for a few people to trickle in. So let's give the polls a shot while we wait. And we'll give it about a minute or two and we'll go from there. Okay. Oh, here are the polls coming through. All right, cool. So a lot of PriceLabs users, a lot of Hostfully users, some new people. Look at that. So on the call, about 40%, 1 to 5 listings, followed by 6 to 15 at 20%. And then 16 to 30 and 30 to 50 are both a tie. And then 50 to 100 and 100 plus are at 7%. So we have a nice variety of experience, I guess. So let's go ahead. There we go. That's a better slide. All right. So I think we'll be okay now. I think everyone's kind of trickled in, and it seems as though we can kind of get started. So again, before we do so, just wanted to quickly point out our questions tab on the bottom. So if you do have any questions throughout today's webinar, we of course will make every effort to get those answered for you, as well as during our Q&A if we have time towards the end of this webinar. Also, in an effort to get better understanding of who you are, who our attendees are, and what you do, we really would love for you to complete the pop-up poll throughout today's webinar. So if you could participate in the polls and provide some information for us, that would be much appreciated. So hello again. This is, again, thanks for joining us. My name is Frank Bosi. I'm the Senior Director of Business Development here at Hostfully, along with Vedant, who is our Senior Business Development Representative. And behind the scenes, answering all the questions and helping us out is Mitch Foster. He is our Manager of Partnerships and Integrations. And then last but certainly not least, today we are joined by the wonderful team at PriceLabs. We have the co-founder, Richie, and then the Manager of Solution Consultants, Becca. Richie, Becca, we're really excited for you to share some of your knowledge, your insights on today's webinar. And just an FYI to the audience, PriceLabs is one of our most popular and used integrations in assisting with dynamic pricing and ultimately increasing your revenue. So today we're going to have a little bit more fun than we usually do. We're going to get interactive while we learn more about PriceLabs and data-driven pricing. Right, but before we do that, just wanted to let you know a little bit more about Hostfully, who we are, what we do for those that are not familiar. We are a vacation rental property management software that helps you run your business from tip to tail. We essentially strive to help vacation rental companies and property managers make more money, increase revenue, streamline and automate day-to-day operations, while also at the same time just improving the overall traveler experience. Now, Hostfully has two platforms. These are both completely standalone platforms. You have the property management platform, and then you have the digital guidebook. These are both fully integrated, so of course you're more than welcome to use them together, but you also have the option to use just the property management software or just the digital guidebook. On the property management side, we have direct integrations with major OTAs, Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, and most recently Google Vacation Rentals, along with a bunch of others, aside from your direct booking channel as well. So Hostfully will be your central software and your hub in managing all of your reservations. We have a great pipeline feature, which is unique to the industry as well. And here is where you can see all of your guests and exactly where they are in the process of their booking, and basically manage all of your operations in different ways than other software. We have a really nice out-of-the-box direct booking site available to all of our users. And we also included in our software is automated messaging, both email and text messages, reports, analytics, payment processors, our wonderful new unified inbox with all 3 major OTAs, our mobile app. And then we also just recently updated our master calendar. And you also have a whole lot more to help you run with your vacation rental business rather seamlessly. And then we also have the standalone digital guidebook platform. This is really cool, really unique and beautiful platform where we focus on enhancing guest experiences. We make it easy to share important information to your guest about their trip, check-in details, directions, house manual information, all of your favorite recommendations. We also integrate with Viator, where you can earn commission for certain activities that are booked via the guidebook. Again, this aims in boosting your guest experience. It cuts down on communication, but it also has the ability to get you more 5-star reviews. So that is our platform and our guidebook. And just a quick update on the property management platform. We have been winning awards. Super excited. It's been phenomenal the past couple of years. We won Matt Landau's VRMB Keystone Award the first year they had it for the best for the best vacation rental software. And then we won again year after that as the best property management software to grow with, specifically, making us back-to-back winners. And then just recently, we won the Shorties 2022 award for the best property management software, and we've been nominated once again for the Shorties 2023 as the best property management software. One of the main evaluators, Terry White, he said that Hostfully is one of the best softwares, period, I have ever seen. And then we can't forget about the guidebooks. The same thing for our guidebooks. Erica is a great client of ours and basically said the same, has the same view as many of our other clients. She stated that the guidebook totally blew her away. We saved her from a ton of time, and also the guidebook is more professional than the usual Word document or PDF that you leave in the unit. So if you haven't tested our guidebooks yet, we actually have free trials for all guidebook subscriptions, and also one free guidebook for everyone who just wants to kick the tires and test it out. Lastly, before we move forward with the webinar, we not only have an incredible platform and a beautiful digital guidebook, but we also have great learning opportunities and resources with our reports, our webinars. We have a variety of resources and reports available on our website, which I encourage you all to check out at your leisure. We have a ton to offer you there, along with blog posts, case studies, articles. If you do want any additional information on any of our products, please feel free to reach out to me or Vedant directly. We're always happy to coordinate and schedule a one-on-one demo with you. But that's enough about Hostfully. I'm sure y'all are really here to learn more about PriceLabs and the sweet surprise that we have for you all out there towards the end. I'll leave that news for PriceLabs themselves. But Richie and Becca, we always love hearing from you. We really love being an official partner and a direct integration with PriceLabs. And now we're also really excited to share some of the learnings that we've received from PriceLabs over the past few days during our preparation powwows. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to you both. So feel free to take it from here.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Frank. Really, really appreciate this. And everyone who's dialing in, really appreciate you making the time and joining us for this webinar. My name's Richie. I'm one of the founders at PriceLabs. You may have sometimes seen emails from me. I generally look after our sales, support, and marketing. But happy to chat about revenue management, happy to chat about vacation rental industry in general. As I was doing one of our release webinars that we'd cover later in this deck, I realized that we've been in this industry for 9 years, almost a decade. Can also talk about other things beyond pricing at this point. But Becca, do you want to quickly introduce yourself as well, and then we'll get into this?
Sure. Hey, y'all. I'm Becca. I'm based out of Charleston, South Carolina. I was actually a property manager using PriceLabs in my day-to-day before I joined the PriceLabs team about 2 years ago. It's been an incredible 2 years. It's been really kind of mind-blowing to see how much the tools, all of our tools have changed over that time. So really excited to be here. Thanks so much, Frank, for having us.
Very cool. Thank you. And I, by the way, just as a highlight, I noticed David Jacoby. He's listening in just to check if we're doing a good job. For those listening in, and if you don't know, David's the CEO at Hostfully, so he's just making sure that we're doing a good job. Thank you, David.
How daunting is that, huh?
I know, very nervous. Cool. Alrighty. So PriceLabs, I looked at the poll. A lot of you are familiar and use PriceLabs. Thank you. Some don't and are not as familiar with PriceLabs. At a high level, we are a pricing and revenue management solution. We'll cover a bunch of this as we go through later in the deck. But we price Airbnbs, vacation rentals, service departments, villas, small hotels. Essentially, think of like if you are selling a short-term or a mid-term inventory, we price it, right? We've over the years we've won a few industry recognitions. I'm not sure why that Shorties 2020 is cut out like that. I think it's our deck. Something went wrong. But we won in 2020 Shorties Award for the best ancillary product, and then again in 2023 we won the award. Now you have to consider the fact that we started in 2014, right? So 2020 was 6 years since we created the product, and 2023 is 9 years since we created the product. 9 years in software world is like it's kind of like the dog years, right? It's lifetime, right? To be able to win an award after 9 years speaks to volumes about what PriceLabs team has been up to in terms of innovation, right? And again, for the very similar thing, Skift, which is a big travel publication, we won not won, we were nominated. My bad. We were nominated. I hope we won, but we were nominated for Ideas Award for what we do with design and data. Again, this happened in 2023. Like I said, we started in 2014. Today, we price a little over 275,000 properties. Roughly 50% of them are in US, and then also around the world, a little over 100 plus countries. I think 125 was the last count in terms of where we have our customers. We support PriceLabs is in 5 languages: English, Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese. And then our team probably has more countries now than this slide. So we're a distributed global team. So if you want to chat with us about your local markets, generally we'd have probably some representation about what's happening in your local markets, right? And if not, we do have folks who understand and have deep dived into most local markets. So would love to chat about that. Cool. What we're going to go through here is a little bit of an agenda. I started creating this deck, and I think I realized at some point that it was a really long deck. So we're not going to go through bullet number 4 unless we leave time for it. But we're going to touch on, we're going to play a little bit of a game as we start, right? Now, I have a question, and I should have thought about this, Vedant or Frank. Is there a way for them to actually type in what they think the answer is? Is there a way for temporarily allowing chat?
Yeah,
Q&A?
I think we could maybe do like a poll. Maybe we'll try it.
Okay, cool. So we're going to play a little bit of a game. Then we're going to look into a new algorithm that PriceLabs has recently launched, right? It'll back off, like it'll make sense based on the game that we play, the HLP algorithm. Then we'll talk about our breakthrough release. We went through a very massive release recently, right? And what all that we did in that. We'll briefly touch on that. Then we want to come down to the 3 products that PriceLabs has, and particularly the bonus offer that we have for today. And then finally, Becca will walk us through the portfolio analytics and help you show a little bit of the product and how it works. Cool. Alrighty. Okay, so Mitch is telling me they can ask a question. Okay, wait, still trying to figure out. Okay, so everyone's familiar, hopefully, or most of you are familiar with the game The Price is Right, right? You've seen this on TV. Today, I am your host for The Price is Right, and we're going to get some answers from you. Except there's a little bit of a twist. What I don't know why the occupancy's O is cut off, but instead of price, we're going to guess occupancy. Right now, why occupancy? We'll cover this later in the webinar again. But occupancy is a super important metric that if we understand how occupied the market would be on a given date, we can better adjust our prices to saying, do we want to be higher in the price on that day, or do we want to be at the low end on that day? Yeah, with me. Cool. Do we have a consensus on how are we going to get them to answer this questions?
Yeah, let's test out the poll first. Worst case, I think I know what Mitch is saying is on the questions, they'll just type in their answer. And I think we'll be okay.
Cool. All right. So here's the premise that we are starting with, right? I have this Miami Beach area. I'm looking at 4+ bedrooms, and I have 100 vacation homes in this South Beach part of Miami. Yeah, clear? 4+ bedrooms, 100 vacation homes in this Miami Beach area. Now, here's your question. Can you guess how many homes would be booked for New Year's 2023? Out of 100 homes, how many homes do you think are going to get booked? And
it's not multiple choice now, huh?
It's not a multiple choice.
Okay, so I'm gonna make up. I'll make up. Where the answer is a percentage or a number?
Percentage. Yeah, percentage. Same thing because it's out of 100.
Okay.
Alrighty, guys, you'd see a poll down. Let's quickly give us some answers. What do you think? 100 homes in South Beach, Miami for New Year's 2023. How many of them are going to get booked?
Okay. Okay, you're lucky I was paying attention yesterday because I remember the answer. Or I think I know the answer. We'll find out. One more.
Alrighty, 16 votes. We have 66 people listening in. Few more votes. No judgments.
And we are sending the poll. All right. All right.
I think you did 2 polls, but okay. Cool. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Vedant did it? What does that mean?
Yeah. I think there were two polls of the same question.
There you go, mate.
But I'm hoping some of you have answered this, and I see a bunch of people saying 86%. There are a lot of people saying 64%. No. A bunch of people saying 81%. Some people saying 64%, and there is a varied set of numbers on this. Cool. Let me give you a little bit more information. Last year, New Year's Eve, the market was booked 67%. What I mean by that is if I had 100 properties in the market, last year for New Year's Eve, 67.5, but essentially 67 homes were booked, right? Can you redo the poll again, Frank? And can we see if people's answers are different?
See, V, you're going to do it, Vedant, or do you want me to do it? I can.
You can do it. Yeah. Yeah, I think you can unpublish and publish again.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Let's see if it. I want to see if it populates again. Oh, it doesn't pop up again.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Righty. So 67 last South Beach, Miami, 100 homes last year. 67% were booked. How many guys do you think this year are going to get booked for New Year's 2023? Should we just use Q&A? Is that okay?
Yeah, let's use the questions tab if y'all can put in your percentage there.
Yeah. So I see 95%. David says
I was going to
99.
say, for example, David Leon said initially it was 99%. Then after you gave him the insight, he went down to 54.
Ooh.
So
Okay.
Karen Soper, Serenity Cabins, Misty Pinnell, let's get your updates.
Seeing some in the 60s.
All righty. Very cool.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
this, right?
yeah. So
So as you
Karen
can,
was
as
at
you can
80
see,
and now she's at 58.
yeah, and it feels like we're narrowing down at that 64 to 58, a bunch of 64s. Serenity Cabin still thinks 99%. Love the optimism. Cool. Let me give you a little bit more information. Let's change that a little bit, right? So we'll start new submissions now. So last year, same time, by same time, I mean, as of this I made this slide 2 or 3 days ago. So as of earlier this week, which is say October 10th, 2022, the market was 17.7% occupied, 18% occupied roughly. Now for Jan 1, because we were looking at Sunday and we want to look day to day, Sunday to Sunday. This year, the market for Sunday, which is December 31st and not Jan 1, December 31st is already 32% occupied. If you're looking at this graph, the solid gray line was last year same time. So on October 10th, 32.6 is this year on October 10th. And then the dotted line, 67.5, was the final achieved occupancy last year. Now, can you guess what do you think the occupancy will end up at for the New Year's now? Can we get some responses in the Q&A? 85, 80. Jesse's still at 64. Alrighty. A few more? I think Kerry answered a few. I'd love to see what Kerry answered and if it has changed at all.
71, 84.
Did Kerry's answer change?
I see a lot of 85, 84,
Kerry went from
84,
and Kerry went from 64 to lovely, right? Some still at 58ish, some 64. Answer hasn't changed. 81. I love this, right? This is exactly what at PriceLabs we do, right? So today we are forecasting for this market. It should get about 85.79. Ignore our percentages. 86 properties should get booked in this market by December 31st, right? Now, this is all probability. This is a very similar guesswork like you're doing, except we put a little bit of math behind it to figure out how we can come up with a forecast for that market, right? Now, that forecast is what informs how we are going to price. This is a rosy forecast. Let me be honest. There are markets that are not as rosy, where you'd see in this very line, the red line, the solid red line is under the solid gray line, in which case the green line would be below that dotted line because we don't forecast it to get as occupied. Cool. Thank you so much for participating. Hopefully that helps you understand a little bit, which I will now hand over to Becca to talk about the PriceLabs' hyperlocal pulse algorithm. And it'll make a little bit more sense on how did we move from last year's 6.5% to 86% this year.
Awesome. Thanks, Richie. Cool. So Hyperlocal Pulse, we launched it officially last month. We've been testing it for about 2 years. So it's really excited to finally be able to bring it to market and talk to you all about it. So to just sort of give you an idea, Hyperlocal Pulse is the newest iteration of our algorithm. It's essentially like the 10th generation. We started back in 2014, 9 years ago, long before I started at PriceLabs, with some basic machine learning algorithms, very sort of localized to Chicago, and then we expanded to sort of the rest of the world. And that was sort of the first version. It was kind of Anurag, one of our co-founders, describes it as like a black box. But after users started to use it, started to interact with it, they wanted more. So, and you'll hear this as kind of a theme, you know, feedback is really, really important to us, and it actually informs a lot of the changes that we've made. So In V2 in 2016, it took us about 2 years to make our next big change. This is when we became a little bit more transparent and we became a little bit more customizable. So a lot of property managers were looking not just for price recommendations, but they wanted to have a little bit more control over our price recommendations for their unique situation. So, and we sort of ran with that for versions 3 through 9, right? So 2016 to 2023, it kind of felt like we have been rolling out new stuff constantly because we have, and our algorithm was a part of that. So whether it was just, certain customizations that were being asked for, or if it was data improvements, adding new data sources, like originally we were just looking at Vrbo, then Airbnb, and then we added Vrbo, Booking.com. All of this has been sort of rolled into the versions 3 through 9. And this year, we released Hyperlocal Pulse. So we've actually been working on Hyperlocal Pulse for the past 2 years. And when I say we, I mean our lovely data science team, not me specifically. And they essentially were at a point where they said, we have so much more data than we did 9 years ago, or I guess 7 years ago, because it was 2 years ago. We've got so much more data at our fingertips. We have this incredible team now. Some of the AI, the machine learning has improved so much in this time. If we were to rebuild what we started in 2014, how would we do it? What would we take into account now that we've been experts in this field for so long? And that's essentially what they did. So it took some time. It took 2 years of a lot of research, a lot of testing, but now we have this hyper-local algorithm that is really, really cool. Now the next couple of slides are going to be kind of data heavy, so please do ask questions if anything is unclear. So one thing that's really cool with the new algorithm is that we're super transparent about it. So we've published some of our findings online. You can see that in our help articles, but you can also see it just within the tool itself. So this is our neighborhood data tab. If you are a PriceLabs user, hopefully you are using this in your day-to-day in our tool. If not, I definitely recommend that you do this because it's really, really neat. So essentially, one of the major changes that we made with this algorithm was sort of how we were understanding your local market. For some time now, for our what we call demand factor, when we're identifying events, high demand, low demand dates, we're using this hyper local model where we're looking at the 350 closest units to you of similar size. Now, with seasonality for the previous versions, we weren't really doing that. We were using what we call market clusters and basically saying, maybe here in Charleston, for example, I live in James Island, which is a town, and there's another town called Mount Pleasant. But we'd probably say, hey, this is the James Island, Charleston area. The seasonality is going to be about the same, no matter if you're in one part of the area versus another. So with Hyperlocal Pulse, we're actually bringing that sort of model down to the same level, that hyperlocal 350 or so closest units of similar size. So what's really cool about this is we're now very transparent. So you can actually see this first chart here is showing you your PriceLabs prices against the market, or again, that hyperlocal comp set that we've essentially created for you. And you can also see the changes that are going on in the market. So this should look pretty similar to those pacing charts that Richie was showing before. We've got your current market occupancy here, which is that red line. It's a little bit hard to see, I know, because we're sharing our screens. We've got current or same time last year market occupancy, and then final. So you really can just go to this page and have a deep understanding of what factors are happening in your market to actually affect those pricing changes that you're seeing every day. But coming into forecasting, this is kind of the cool data part. So how are we actually coming up with those prices? I'm going to focus on this bottom chart first. So this is, again, a pacing chart, right? We've got the red line, which is this year's occupancy, against the gray line, which is occupancy same time last year. Now, we're looking at this for every single day going forward on your calendar and looking for changes in the market. Now, of course, close in, so if we're looking, July, August, September, we have a lot of data here. we have a decent amount of occupancy, so we can make some assumptions. In these weekends in particular, you're seeing that this red line is actually much higher than the gray line. So the market is pacing ahead. So we could potentially assume, or we are going to assume, that the final occupancy is actually going to be higher for those dates. Now, dates that are far out, you'll notice, and I don't know that I actually explained this chart very well. Oops, what am I doing? This is a sort of a chart showing last year's final occupancy against our forecasted occupancy. So the green line is what we're forecasting, and the dotted line is what last year's actuals were. So
got it. Question, Becca. Someone and I'm not too sure if it was this slide 19 or the one right before it.
I can go back.
They're asking what the black line indicates. And it's that.
Line. I have a feeling that it's this one here.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so this is, we call this our future prices graph. The black line is showing you, if you're using PriceLabs, the recommended or most recent calculation for prices. So along here, you're going to see, it's really small, but this would be typically dollars. And then along the bottom are different future stay dates. So essentially the black line is going up when our prices are going up, going down when the prices are going down. And then the highlighted areas in the back, the pinks and grays, are showing you like the range of pricing in the market. So again, looking at those 350 units, what's the lower end, the middle, and like the higher end of pricing that we're seeing.
Awesome. It's great UI. It's like easy to read. And then one more question, Becca.
Yeah.
Just being that we're on the screen. Hyper local, what does that mean? Is it zip code based, address based? What is kind of the
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. So it's based on your sort of geography, your location. We look at not necessarily your zip code, but actually like your latitude and longitude of your listing. Oh. And we pull in the 350, up to 350. If you're in a very rural area, sometimes it's less than that, but up to 350 of the closest units to you of similar size. So if you have like a 3-bedroom, for example, you'll see 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms in that hyper local comp set. If you have maybe a larger home, like a 10-bedroom, there just doesn't tend to be as many in most markets. So we actually expand that. So you'd probably see like 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 bedrooms if you have like a larger home. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yes. I want to just emphasize there, right? So that is exactly one of the big changes that we made, right? What we are trying to do is we're real time trying to pull the closest 350 properties, right? Which is what makes it hyper local. It's not some zip code. It is not some area, right? It is not some random large area, right? It is very hyper local to you. Where your property is located. We get that information, latitude and longitude from Hostfully. Based on that, we come up with your comp set based on some other parameters that we use, and we come up with this information.
Yeah. Cool. So getting back to this slide, and keep the questions coming. Absolutely love them. Want y'all to really understand what we're talking about here. So what I was showing you before was we have these dates that are clearly pacing ahead. So that's reflecting in our future occupancy forecasts. Now, if you're looking really far out on either your calendar or really any calendar, not many people are booking really, really far in advance. You can see here, there's almost no, if any, occupancy in the market for beyond January. So you'll notice that our occupancy forecasts pretty much follow very similarly to the line of our final occupancy last year. And then as we're getting more information about the market, we're doing this calculation every single day for every single one of your properties, and we're updating our forecasts. Something else to keep in mind is obviously events. So this is Easter, for example. Easter changes weekends every year, right? So it's not always, I don't know, April 14th. I'm actually not I should know when Easter is, but I don't. But essentially, it's going to change weekends
because it's changing every year. That's why we can't keep track.
That's my problem. So here we're able to see, okay, it was this spike that's attributed to Easter. Easter's not going to be on that weekend anymore, so we're automatically going to essentially forecast Easters, the new Easters with the old Easters occupancy from the previous year, which is super neat. Now, what does this mean? So you are coming to us typically for help pricing. All this occupancy stuff is great, but where is the pricing in all of this?
If I can, sorry,
go
sorry,
ahead.
very sorry. This is exactly what we tried to do with the game on Miami, right?
Yeah.
Where we said like the market was 17% last year versus this year it's at 32% already. Last year final occupancy was 67%. What would be the final occupancy this year, right? Very simplistically, you could come up with some ratios and figure out what that would be, right? But if you thought 32% versus 17%, that's roughly double. 67%, you can't really double that, because of course, right? 67%, you can't, your occupancy cannot be more than 100%. But it's not just that. What we look at is how are those days trending. So if I went from 32% to 33% and next day 35% and 38%, I would look for like in the last year, what other dates in your market had trended very, very similarly, not just December 31st, but what other dates, right? And that help us inform and get better granular on how can we forecast better. Yeah. And with that forecasting, now back to you, Becca.
Gotcha. Cool. So how do we get to pricing from that forecast? So this is called our like pricing elasticity graph. Essentially, this is showing you your probability of booking at any given price. So right now we're just focusing on a single date, and we do this for every single date on your calendar for the next 540 days. But so if we're thinking of a random date, maybe, I don't know, December 15th, this is going to be your probability of booking, right? If I price my listing at $1, I'm pretty much going to have 100% ability to book it at $1. Now, if I try to price at 500, the probability of me actually booking is going to go much lower. So super neat to look at here, but how do we actually get from what price to the revenue that you're actually going to be getting? And that's where getting from prices to the best price is. And again, we do this for every single day on your calendar for every single one of your listings. Essentially, what we've added here, we've still got this probability line, but we're looking at expected revenue. And if we think of expected revenue as your rate times the probability of getting booked at that rate, we're going to get this nice sort of parabola, I suppose. And we're going to price you right at the top where you're going to get the most potential expected revenue, which is really, really cool. Anything to add, Reggie?
No, okay, actually,
okay.
I love to speak. If you'd give me the stage, I will speak. But so essentially what we're trying to say, for example, is say, if I was to charge $100, right? My probability to book at $100 is 80%, right? What that means is my expected revenue for that day is $80, right? Versus, say I could charge $300, but my probability to book is, say, only 33%, right? That means my expected revenue for that date is 300 times 33%, which is $100. But in the middle where Becca has that green thingy, let's say that was 160. At 160, my probability to book is now, say, 70%. So 160 times 70%, that is my expected revenue, which I should have picked easier numbers to calculate, because I can't calculate that in my head. But that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out what is the probability of booking, and what is the probability of booking, what is the price, how can I maximize the probability of booking, expected revenue, right? But it does not stop here. Go to the next slide.
Okay. So pulling it all together, I know we've kind of went through some complicated slides, but let's summarize it. So essentially, we're getting updated booking data from your hyperlocal market every single day. With that, for every single future day on your calendar for 540 days, we're figuring out a forecast of demand, so that forecasted occupancy. We're overlaying that with our estimated elasticity model that hey, should I price at $1 or $500? And then we're finding that optimal rate for 540 days in the future for every single one of your listings.
This is, that that slide is the most complicated slide of what we do, right? It's, if you're interested, you can search for dynamic programming, right? This is dynamic programming, right? Every day, today we're figuring out, say a day is 540 days out. We're figuring out what would we have calculated 540 days, like on the 539th day, what would we have set the price for that day? On 538th day, what would we have said what the price would have been, right? And we work back to 540 days, right? And then we figure out what is the most optimal price for us to charge, right? Because it is possible, our forecast and our elasticity says maybe on 300th day is when my prices are most optimal to book. So let's not try to book today. Let's try to book on the 300th day, right? So this is something that we are and it is not something that we can say and write in stone today and say, hey, on 300th day you'd book, right? Very similar to how we showed you the Miami chart. 86%, that's what we think today, but tomorrow that number can change, right? So very similarly, we're constantly trying to evaluate, understand, and figure out what the right price point is.
Perfect. And
we do. Oh, sorry, Becca. We do have a lot of questions coming through. Okay. All right, cool. I want to make sure we answer them. I was actually very happy that there's so many questions. So real quick. So in terms of strategy and pricing, Joanne asked if this unit, if my unit is a 1-bedroom or a studio, does the local hypermarket include the hotel room data in his immediate area? So I'm assuming, do you pull pricing from local hotels?
Yeah, so by default, so if he has a 1-bedroom or a studio, we'll probably look at studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, or rooms, studios, and 1 bedrooms. Rooms being rooms that are listed on Airbnb or Vrbo, right? We do include hotel data as a small portion of our algorithm. It helps us identify demand for certain dates. So say all of the hotels in your market are raising their prices, and there hasn't quite been any occupancy changes in the short-term rental market. That'll basically be a demand signal for our pricing, and we'll raise prices a little bit in response to that. Something that's really cool with Hyperlocal Pulse is that if you are a operator of either apartment hotel, or you find that you are competing more so with hotels because you have like a studio or a 1-bedroom, you can actually increase the weight of hotel data in our algorithm now. So yeah, you can reach, I don't know if we want to get too deep into that, but you can always reach out to our support and we can give you more information on that.
All right, awesome.
We use hotel data. If you want us to, by default, it has a low weightage, but we do take it into account. But if you want it to increase weight, you can increase the weight.
Great. And then we also have Allison, who mentioned that she has several unique stays, all of which have the same address. How do you approach that one? And if so, does that mess up your system?
Not necessarily. I mean, so even though the listings themselves are unique, the demand in the market is probably going to be relatively similar for each of them. We can get into like setting a base price and all of your other customizations. But your base price is basically going to tell us maybe one's like a super high-end luxury and another one you really need to renovate it. Your base price is going to kind of give us the difference in that sense. But then, yes, the hyperlocal market is going to be very similar between each of those units, but they'd probably be experiencing the same demand trends anyways.
All right, cool. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, keep on going, and then we'll get to questions towards the end too.
Yeah. So we've mentioned this a couple of times, but again, our forecast is evolving every single day. So every new booking that comes into your market, it's taking, or our system is taking that into account and doing stuff with that in our forecast here. So I don't know if we have any Swifties in the audience, but we love to use Taylor Swift because she has such an impact on markets sometimes. So this is an example of April 14th in 2023, how our forecasted occupancies changed. Just like in the game that we were playing before, how we were all kind of guessing, we're also updating and changing our occupancy forecasts as we get more information. So in July of 2022, we started, okay, maybe this is very similar occupancy to where it was last year, getting closer, seeing more bookings, maybe raising that a little bit. But then all of a sudden, we're noticing that we're seeing that the market is actually pacing slower. So our occupancy forecasts are going down over time, maybe staying steady. And then Taylor Swift announces her Eras tour, and everybody starts to book. So that's going to pop our forecast back up. And then again, over time, as we're learning more and more, it's just going to keep on changing. Anything to add on this one, Richie? Okay. And we're going to skip that slide that got left in here by accident and talk about, so we focused a lot on the hyperlocal pulse algorithm. That was kind of the big thing because we've been working on it for 2 years. But with this last release, we've actually released over 20 other features. We probably won't have time to get into all of them today, but Richie, if you want to.
Absolutely. Let me see if I can share my screen. I know I was able to, but okay. If you guys can see my screen. Oh, thank you for doing that. So if you guys can see my screen. So like Becca said, we recently did a big breakthrough release where we talked about several new features that we had launched. Hyperlocal Pulse was the central part of this release. We didn't talk about this in this slide deck, but on average, customers on Hyperlocal Pulse versus not using a pricing solution, we see a 26% increase in RevPAR, right? Which is huge. It depends on how much you were doing for pricing before, but we've seen a 26% increase on average with using Hyperlocal Pulse versus not doing anything. In fact, even if you were to get your pricing absolutely dialed in on day one, just by changing prices every day and figuring out as the market evolves, we've seen an 11% increase by trying to figure out and change your prices as the market's evolving every day. So along with Hyperlocal Pulse, we had a few different features that we launched: performance metrics, smart presets that help you set up PriceLabs more easily, desktop app, if you can download it on your desktop and use it more easily. If you are a large property manager and you want team management with role-based controls, you can set that up in PriceLabs. And then you can have there were about 20 plus features that we launched as a part of that release, right? I want to quickly take you through, if this is possible. Let's see. Actually, I don't know if the sound will come through. Does the sound come through?
We'll find out. You could just sing the song.
I had the same thought too just now.
That would make everyone leave, and that is not our goal for this webinar. Cool. Anyways, we'll send over just a summary of what the release was. Don't want to take a lot of time, but essentially, if you get a chance, would highly recommend to look at the release, especially if you're curious about what PriceLabs is working on in terms of new features and our capabilities, right? There were 20 plus features. We won't have time to cover it in this webinar anyway. Okay.
It's more of a reason to book a meeting and to talk about it after the demo,
correct.
right?
Thank you so much. Yeah. So we covered a lot on dynamic pricing, and we talked about dynamic pricing. How do we calculate the occupancy, right? But PriceLabs essentially has 3 products. Dynamic pricing. The text seems a little bit off, but essentially you can apply your own strategies using full control or use our recommendations. Every day we will update these prices onto Hostfully, and we also enable you to look at all of that data in very transparent way. Coming to market dashboards help you make better pricing decisions or investment decisions. You can create custom comp sets for your hyperlocal area. You can say, there was a question here where someone asked, hey, can I look at just specifically lakefront properties, right? And how are they pricing, right? You could create that in market dashboards and then pull it into dynamic pricing to see how only lakefront properties were pricing, right? Or you can analyze investments. You can see how some of your competitors are pricing. A bunch of things that you can do from market dashboards, right? Market dashboards is more, it does not automate your pricing. Dynamic pricing automates your pricing. Market dashboards is more if you want to dig in and understand what's happening in your market. And then the third thing, portfolio analytics, we'll dive into it in just a few seconds. But portfolio analytics helps you figure out, based on your own booking patterns, what's happening, how are you doing year on year, how is your revenue trending, how is your occupancy trending, how are your several other key metrics trending. Now, thank you so much for joining on in this webinar. And as a thank you, we have a few promos here, right? 30-day free trial. Everyone who starts on dynamic pricing, they get a 30-day free trial. And then we have some Hostfully exclusives. If you are connecting PriceLabs with Hostfully before December 31st of 2023, when Miami's occupancy will be 86%. Before December 31st, 2023, if you're connecting PriceLabs and Hostfully, we'll drop in 5 market dashboard credits. Each credit is good to search for an area for a month, right? And then along with this connection, you will also get free access to portfolio analytics. Now, if you don't want to use PriceLabs as dynamic pricing, if you just want to look at your historical analysis, whether you're using Hostfully's to manage your pricing, whether you're using another pricing software, you can still access the portfolio analytics inside PriceLabs. Cool. With that, this is the same representation. I know we're running short of time. Becca, can I hand it back to you to dive a little bit into portfolio analytics and show us what portfolio analytics is?
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen. Cool. So portfolio analytics is like a business intelligence tool. It's all your own data. Something that I think people, especially if you're new to dynamic pricing or revenue management, it's not just dynamic pricing, right? A lot of it is actually understanding your own performance, whether that's year over year, your performance against the market. And that's what portfolio analytics is here for. And again, it's a free tool for you to use. You don't have to use any of our other tools. We hope you do, but it's a really, really great resource if you really want to understand what's going on in your portfolio. So up top here, we've got some basic KPIs or key performance indicators. By default, we're going to show you how your performance is trending for stay dates, so people that have actually come, checked in, checked out of your properties. By default, again, from the last 30 days compared with the previous 30 days. You can change these. So if you want to look year over year, you can. If you want to look this week compared to last week, you just adjust these dates here. You can also look for booking creation dates. So again, these are when bookings are being made. So how have my bookings in the past 30 days changed compared to the previous 30 days? In this case, it looks like we're up in revenue and the number of bookings, but maybe our average length of stay is down a little bit. So really nice to quickly reference those here. We also have some great graphs below here. All this is downloadable into a CSV if you want. Also super cool, I'll show you this at the end, but you can actually export this as a PDF as like an owner report too. So here we have monthly, weekly, daily, and day of week trends. Of course, this looks a little bit messy if you're looking at daily, so you can always zoom in to get a little bit more zoomed in, closer look at any date in particular. We show you 4 graphs for trends by stay date by default, but there's a number of different KPIs that you can look at here. By default, we're going to show you revenue, RevPAR, occupancy, and ADR, kind of those main 4 that you should be paying attention to, maybe checking in on once a week or maybe at least once a month, just to make sure that things are looking okay. Now, this is just our historic. So we do have really great pacing data here. If you go to Portfolio Analytics, there's 2 sections. We also have pacing charts. So if you're looking at December and you're like, wow, my revenue is really down, keep in mind it's October. We don't necessarily know if December having 241K is okay, or if it's something that we should be worried about. So you can also reference pacing to understand that same time last year data. Coming down here, looking at Trends by booking creation date, also super useful. We've got a couple of different KPIs here. Things like occupancy don't make sense if you're looking at them by creation date. So I like to look at, for example, my booking window or my average length of stay. This way I can, it looks like in this market, there isn't really much variance in your average length of stay throughout the year, but you can use this to sort of plan ahead if you're looking at maybe your, if we're looking at booking window. Maybe my high season is July and August. I want to see what my booking window is for those months so that before we get to July and August, I can prepare my revenue management strategy ahead of time and not be trying to catch up, right? Be a little bit more proactive. Huge fan of our length of stay and booking window trend charts. This can help you really understand. Honestly, a lot of times when I'm helping people onboard, they say, oh, I have a 2-night minimum. My average length of stay is like 2 nights. And then we come in here and we find out that they actually have a lot of 3 and 4-night stays. And then they could actually try to have maybe a little bit more restrictive of a minimum stay strategy, get a little bit more out of each of those bookings that they're getting. If you are a larger manager, these listing level metric charts are super, super cool. Essentially, you can compare any 2 metrics that you want. So I like looking at, say, listing occupancy by listing ADR. It's kind of like a visualization of RevPAR, essentially. You can quickly point out, okay, maybe these ones that have really high occupancy but low ADR, maybe I need to adjust my base price. Maybe I can make an adjustment here to sort of push my ADR up, even if I'm sacrificing a little bit of occupancy. And as I was saying before, you can export all of this as a PDF. We also run a ton of great webinars. If you want to learn more about portfolio analytics, how to use it in your day-to-day, at the beginning of every month, we run a live webinar just like this, where you can ask questions, give us suggestions, comments, things like that. Typically, it's the first week of every month we're doing both portfolio analytics and market dashboards webinars. Anything else, Richie, you're
filters. If you could just quickly talk about filters.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So especially if you are a larger property manager and you aren't really, it's good to look at your entire portfolio, but sometimes you have questions that need to be answered for more specific parts of your portfolio, right? So if you click here, right now I'm looking at the entire portfolio, but we have a ton of really great filters. So if you're using tags, groups, you can look at, my 2 bedrooms and then maybe my oceanfront tags. I don't know if I can, so I'll say my 2-bedroom condos, and we'll say tags. And this is super neat. Honestly, all of our filters are really cool. You can either say 2 bedrooms or beach, and I can say 2 bedrooms that are also tagged as beach. So I would just be looking at a very specific subset of my portfolio here, which might be performing differently than the overall portfolio. So if you're segmenting your properties, it's really good to look at the data segmented as well. Cool. I think we're pretty much at time, but if we have any questions, maybe we can answer a couple.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're going to go over a little bit. There's a lot of questions. PriceLabs is popular. But what we could do also, just keep in mind, if you do have to hop off, we are going to send a follow-up email with the recording as well. So if you do have a pressing question, respond to that email. We'll get it over to Richie and Becca. They'll answer it for you gladly. And if it's a question we can answer, heck, we'll do it. But with the remaining time, it's 4 o'clock now. Maybe we'll go a few minutes over if everyone's okay. If you have to leave, again, you're going to get a recording. If we can stay over 2-3 minutes, maybe get 1 or 2 questions answered, that'll be awesome.
Just one thing to add, if folks
go for it, Richard.
If you have questions that, like, if you want to reach out to PriceLabs, send us an email at support@pricelabs.co. That's our central email ID, and you'd be directed to the right place depending on your question.
Yeah, awesome. The ones that I saw, a lot of them are comparing you and another dynamic pricing software. I'll leave that to you, your sales team, to take care of that one. But for the comparison analytics, how far back can PriceLabs pull our specific information for a Hostfully user? Is that from the sign up date?
2019.
Yes.
Oh, you're breaking up, Becca.
I think there's something wrong with my connection.
It's Charleston.
It's Charles.
We can go as far back as 2019, but we generally can pull even more data set, right? But we limit it to 2019, 2020, 21, and generally we trend to like last 4 years of data set.
Okay, wonderful. Yep, and then a lot of people are wondering, current clients, how they can get the new algorithm. They still have the old one showing. I know you said something along the lines of it's automatic, or they have to like request, right?
Sorry. Yeah. Some users were automatically migrated where there was limited action needed. Because you may have added certain things on top of PriceLabs, we can't easily migrate you, right? Send us an email at support@pricelabs.co. Either if we are ready to migrate you, we'll let you know, or we'll tell you when we can reach out to you. But in general, for all of our customers, we're reaching out and saying, hey, we're ready to migrate you. Here's how to migrate, etc., etc.
All right, beautiful.
And all of our customers,
I think
August are already on it. So if you just recently signed up, you don't need to make any changes.
And we had one more question, one last one. I think we can take this with from Brian. With Airbnb's push to kind of roll cleaning fees into the daily rate, how would it impact like the data?
Cool. I can. So number one, again, if I go back to the very second slide on this, right? Which is, I can't. I was going in reverse direction. If I go back to the very second slide on our deck, which is rather than the prices, right? The very first thing that we're trying to figure out is the occupancy, right? And the cleaning fee is not impacting occupancy, or if someone has rolled in their cleaning fee such that their price becomes so absurd that they're not getting a booking, right? Then that occupancy will get impact, right? So that's the first piece. Number two, we see and help you figure out what your base price is, and from there we go forward, right? So cleaning fee or like the price point is not decided by just purely based on your competitors. Price point is actually really decided by how the occupancy is trending and where do we see the revenue maximization possibility, right? So every day we're going back and checking, but the primary thing that we're doing is occupancy and not price match. We never do price match.
Fantastic.
And there's a very simple reason for that. If you'd go, for example, search reviews on PriceLabs, etc., you'd see people saying, "Hey, I used to charge." I'm making this up now, but I used to charge $100 on average. But with PriceLabs, I got a booking that's $300, right? With price match, you would have never gotten from 100 to 300, right? It is by trying to figure out what is the potential in the market that we get there.
All right. I think that's good. Again, any additional questions, send them our way. Send them to support@pricelabs.co. Yeah. Look at that. Memorize it already. But again, Richie, Becca, thank you for taking the time to speak with us. I think we could be talking about this for hours. And just thank you again for sharing your vast knowledge of the industry, how we can unlock our vacation rental potential with data-driven pricing. The trio is working phenomenal. The hyper one is new, and it seems to be doing really well. And it
hyper local pulse brand.
Hyper local. I remember the email. I forgot the hyper.
I will have to figure out and get you a shirt for Verma so that you don't forget.
Deal. Yeah, I like hats though. But yeah, again, and for those of you listening, I think that was the most common question actually is if you're overwhelmed with the wealth of information that you just received, don't you fret. We will be sending out an email after this webinar with a link to the recording. You'll have our contact information. But I believe you all learned something new today. If not, I hope you did. And we will be using it to scale and generate your operations moving forward. Again, Richie, Becca, thank you. And just thank you to everyone for joining in today's webinar and for being so active and curious. So thanks again. And any questions you have, shoot them our way. We'll be here for you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
See y'all in
Thank you,
Orlando.
guys.
Bye.